Morning, morning, everybody. Michelle is here. I thought I'd come on, show up this morning on a Monday with my, with my hair laying down. You understand what I mean? I don't have no hat on. I put a hat on my head because, I used to be teased about my forehead when I was in elementary school. They used to call me forehead, because apparently I have a big forehead. But anyway, everybody, it's Monday. And you know what that means? Not a goddamn thing. How about that? So anyway, I hope everybody's doing fantastic, magnificent, and marvelous because I am okay. So I'm doing a video right now, and I'll do a podcast later today. I'm doing a video right now on this Monday because I know I'm the only motherfucker up on this Monday on the West Coast. Okay. Everybody else is still in bed or somewhere, laying their ass down somewhere. But anyway, I wanted to come through and talk about something that was floating, or flowing across the social media platform a few days ago, as well as I don't know where, it's possibly everywhere, because the media loves to pick up on the social media platform, because they don't want to be going out and investigating shit, legitimate stuff. And so they scour across the social media platform to pick up some information to give us some news. Hey, you gotta take your punches too, media. And I'm going to talk about the devastating role of media and how you can, redeem yourselves if you choose to. Everything's free will. So anyway, I wanted to do a video because this is possibly going to be a long video because of the subject. All right. I have been thinking, contemplating, cultivating, and attempting to make sure I'm speaking clearly and effectively on this particular subject, because it came across, like I said, the social media platforms. And since I am a storyteller, I wanted to give you my theories and opinions on storytelling from my perspective, okay? And see if I can allow you an opportunity to understand the reasoning behind storytelling from my perspective versus truth telling. And now I'll get into some things a little bit more further about it. So consider this, and ask yourself these series of questions that I'm about to put out, and see what you can contemplate on that, cultivate. You may need to. I can guarantee you're gonna have to do a no thought meditation on it, because there's a lot of things we don't know, and there's a process of how we have to understand stuff. And I'm talking from my perspective. I have to understand things in a particular fashion or particular process so that I can understand. Okay. Because I told you, I have a strong visionary. I have strong visionary skills. Okay. And so that causes a buzz from when you say that you're a visionary with people, because that conjures up all kind of, and it comes back to how we're thinking. We understand and we react so differently to words and sounds and tones. So that's why it's so important to be able to relate and relay to all walks of life, okay, and give everyone the benefit of the doubt and understand how people express themselves, so that you can be clear and effective when you're attempting to teach people, understand yourself, so there's no misunderstandings. Okay? Now, so something came across about storytelling per se. It relates to storytelling per se, and and how people are exaggerating their experiences per se, or not telling the truth per se. Okay, now I've told you several times in my videos that these are my theories and opinions coming from my perception and my experiences. Okay, and I also said that, however, if you go to my siblings, they're going to have their own perspective as well and their theories and opinions, and they ought to. Okay, now it would be great, or would it be great? This is something to think about. If we all were thinking the same, but that's illogical, right? And that can be dangerous too. Now, you can find like-mindedness, which is a different concept than all of us thinking the same. Okay, we all do not think the same. Otherwise, all we would need is one person. Why would we need 10 billion people if we're all thinking the same? All right, storytelling. So I told you, like I said, I have my theories and opinions and my own perception of my realities. When I was a young girl and as an adult now. So I have my own perception. And because I was a visionary, I have my own snapshots of my reality. I have my own snapshots of my experiences. If you're auditory, sometimes you may hear stuff. You're hearing stuff. People are saying things to you. Music is extremely valuable. Sounds, tones to the auditory. And then I told you about the fillers, which is also extremely powerful. It's the fact that you can pick up the energy of instinct and warnings and signs of danger. And you can, because remember I told a story, I don't know when, in one of my videos about this woman. She got up really early in the morning, and a lot of women do this, and a lot of people do it in general, but a lot of women do this for a reason. They get up really, really early in the morning, just before the light of the day, to run. A lot of them, or walk, or whatever they do, and a lot of them do that because they are doing that before they get to work, and a lot of them go by themselves fine, and some of them were putting these headphones in their ears, which I was like, and they'll go to these parks. And remember, I always said this as well, somebody's always watching you. Somebody's always watching you, and you need to, whether it's in satellites, whether it's somebody sitting in their car, sleeping in their car. And so you go into these parks because we're so massively overpopulated. A lot of people are sleeping in their cars. Keep that in mind. So you go to these parks, she went to this park to run or whatever she wanted to do. And she had headphones in her ears. But as she was starting to, start her run, her walk, something must have struck her. She must have felt an instinct of something. And because as it turns out, she gets out there to start walking, minding her own business, doing whatever she can to, start her day. And then she felt something, apparently. Something, maybe the hair on the back of her neck was, warning her of something. And chances are, and as that's going on, there is a person that is actually following her. Okay. And of course he saw her first as she got out of her car. And the thing is that she had headphones in, even though she may be in her feelings, because she picked this up, that yes, he was following her. He was tracking her, basically. and he kept creeping up on her, and then I think he tried to attack her. She screamed, and other people heard it. So my point is, we have to, as I said, give each other the benefit of the doubt, and more importantly, give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. You know, our perceptions are important, but are perceptions accurate? Chances are they're not. They're not accurate perceptions. There's just a perception of our realities as best we understand it. Okay, we do have a storage bank or a planetary bank that has everything about us in that, and I'll talk about that, because I have to talk about these things in stages. So chances are I'm going to start this conversation about storytelling, and there's going to be some more talking about storytelling. So my point in storytelling is that we're all individual. We all have our own perception and our own realities of our experiences. And everyone else ought to. That's why I say you need to control your narrative. And so now we have people that, that have time on their hands. I don't understand why this became an issue when someone's storytelling, because we like to be entertained. Keep that in mind. And so as a teacher, sometimes you have to meet people where they are. Okay? Just like with anyone that's a messenger, like I said, teachers, anyone that's attempting to help people and reach people, you sometimes have to meet people where they are. Okay? Storytelling has truth, non-truth, and a sprinkle of conspiracy theories in them. That's always been my perception of, anything, any form of entertaining, and any form of attempting to reach people. Teachers do this too. They bring some humor in. They bring some foolishness in. They bring fun in, and they bring seriousness and harshness, and what they are attempting to relay to people, what the type of knowledge they're attempting to. So ask yourself, why do we have fiction? Why do we have fiction books? I think the majority of the books on the market are fiction. Why is that? Ask the question, contemplate on it, cultivate. Okay, I wrote two books, and they were fiction. 2 fiction books that are out there. I no longer have the desire to write. I'm just going to make that very clear and effectively. Make it very clear and effective. I do not have the desire to write, and I'll tell you. And like I said, in stages, it'll make sense. But anyway, storytelling, because of so storytelling from a teacher's perspective, and from someone attempting to reach people, you have to know how people express themselves. So you have to go in there with the intentions of, okay, how do I reach this audience, and how do I relay a certain topic, whether it's something serious or not, there's an urgency or not. So that means you have to reach them based on their expression. So you have to incorporate a whole lot of vision, auditory, feeling, sensing, receiving, all the other factors that you need to use when you are attempting to disseminate, teach, reach, motivate. I don't know. Motivate. I don't feel a need for motivating, and I talked about that, and I'll talk about that again. Like I said, I have to talk to you in stages, but I want to talk to you about storytelling from my perspective. Okay, ask yourself the question: why do we have fiction? Because I remember when I was in middle school, and I got into this course it was a humanities course, and I can remember being so fascinated by that humanities course, because the teacher was I remember the teacher used to wear colorful clothing. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm a visual person. I can remember this man. I think he was short, and he wore colorful clothing. He was very animating. He was engaging, and that turned out to be one of my most favorite courses, actually. and science, and I'll talk about that another time. But so when I remember that humanities class in middle school, and he was talking about, and I just remember the Greek mythology that stood out, that's standing out right now, and how he talked about, Greek mythology, and he was talking about all these philosophers at the time, these these voices, those voices of the time. And I think I can remember asking him or talking to him and saying, well, why are we wasting all this time on myths? This is before I knew what this class was about. I didn't want to take the class, but I think it was a requirement. I mean, why are we wasting our time on myths and this and that? I couldn't understand why would anybody spend so much time on myths. And then it finally dawned on me, as teachers, as philosophers, we have to meet people where they are. And so chances are these philosophers that they call Greek mythology, that they associate with Greek mythology, they assumed, someone assumed that they were myths, because how can you prove otherwise, right? And there was a lot of interference and hidden stuff and contamination and compromising as well on top of that. But chances are on every planet, like I said, we cannot all be at the same consciousness level per se. You have to have some high consciousness, you have to have some low consciousness, and you have some, something in between. A vibration up, right? But you do have parallels. People are on parallel consciousness, like I call people my parallel sisters and my, parallel brothers. When I say spiritual brother, that means parallel. We're like-mindedness, but we're still different. Okay, storytelling. Storytelling to me is a fascinating way to reach people. Now, yes, some people go out there and blatantly lie. But again, everything depends on your intentions. And you have to know your intentions. And you have to be up when somebody come up on you and ask you, okay, what was your intentions? And okay, in other words, your intentions were not to lie, to tell a lie per se. Your intentions was to reach people and cause people to think and see if people can contemplate, because we all, like I said, love fiction. Okay, everything in Hollywood is fiction. Every now and then they'll come with something they say that's based on a true story, and usually those are unauthorized true stories. In other words, somebody else is putting their perception in those so-called true stories. And in most cases, they do not talk to the horse. In other words, they're not getting it from the horse's mouth. They're throwing their perception on it. They're making it entertaining, because they know a lot of people are very inept and know that most of us operate off of what? Entertaining. We love to be entertained. We don't want to hear the truth. No, we do not. Okay, we don't want to hear it. We get upset when people attempt to tell you the truth. But if somebody can package it differently in fiction, you may have a possibility of reaching that person, and chances are unconsciously, because they're unconscious usually. When people are trying to block out truths that are staring them right in the face, they're usually unconscious and interfering. They're interfering with their developing, and their expansion. So why do we like fiction? Star Wars is a fiction, isn't it? Star Trek, fiction, isn't it? Now, I suspect, because anyone who is under the illusions that we're the only humans in this universe, you're delusional as well. Okay, there's a chance that, but we and whether you want to believe it or not, that's on you. You have free will. But to believe, in my opinions, that we're the only humans in this universe, okay, that's almost crazy talking to me, because I know for a fact, based on my experiences, that's not true at all. Okay, we'll leave that alone for now. So chances are, and there's, I also said there are many people on this planet and beyond this planet that are at a high consciousness level. Like I said, because you need that on a planet. You need a balance of high consciousness versus low consciousness, and and those in this center. Okay, the low consciousness people on this planet, are, well, I'll go back to that. So you have high, you have someone in the middle, and then you have someone below that. But that's oscillating and functioning at a certain level. And so you need to do everything in your power as a storyteller to reach them. So that's why we like fiction, because fiction allows you to expand your perceptions based on your fantasies, based on your imagination. And that's where you get the Steindelitosis, which is a spark, an inspiration, because, when you are allowed to indulge in your fantasy, you can let yourself go. That's fantastic. That's what dreams do as well. They let you let go. And you just let the possibilities spark you, inspire you. You don't need to be motivated ever. Once you know this, you are inspired. Yes, you are. There's some inspiration, and it creates ideas, creativity. That's why I say you got to be more creative. You have to be creative and think. And a lot of people say, well, think outside the box. Okay, I say think outside the universe. Expand it. Elevate yourself. Bring yourself to going, to be expanding in your perceptions. Now, the only thing about fantasy, and that's where we ran into some issues, is we believe they were true. Our fantasies are our fantasies. Okay, they're fantasies. They're an indulging of possibilities, but that doesn't mean that they are true. You can take some sprinkles of it out and attempt to bring it into your life, cultivate it into your life, navigate it into your life. But you have to know, you have to draw the line and know, okay, this is a fantasy, and not get yourself trapped in it. A lot of people in Hollywood are trapped in their fantasies. A lot of people that run Disney are trapped in their fantasies. NASA's trapped in their fantasies. The military trapped in their fantasies. That's why we have these incels who are trapped in their fantasies of gaming, and they believe they are ingesting all of that imagery, that immersing, how they are immersed in those fantasies, that they are warping their consciousness to believing that is true. And so that's when they become delusional and schizophrenic, and start hearing voices, because they have trapped themselves in their fantasies and they believe them. And again, I told you, fantasies are a way to indulge, yes, and to see, hear, or feel possibilities, sense and receive possibilities of how you can expand yourself. But we're not thinking properly. In most cases, we're ruminating, and being overstimulated, overindulged, and with our imagery, with our auditory, our feelings, in fantasies. And so we're trapped there. And so when some of us finally snap out of it and come back to reality and get themselves grounded in reality, they're pissed off because they realize they're living a mundane life. They're living in a filthy apartment, a filthy house. They're living in hoarding conditions. Okay, they hate their jobs. They hate their partners. They hate their children. And so now they realize, okay, I've had enough of this. I want my fantasy. But then, and they also neglect their responsibilities. They don't pay their bills. They don't keep they're unkempt. They smell, they're disgusting. But usually they're so trapped and involved in their fantasies, they're attempting to escape from the realities of our responsibilities and accountabilities. If you immerse yourself enough into your fantasies, of course you're going to think this life is not worth living. And that it's not worth the effort. And I say otherwise. So in storytelling, based on my theories and opinions and my perception of it, it's an attempt to reach people based on however they express themselves. And since we love entertaining, right? See, a good teacher, and that's probably this, a good teacher will assess the situation of their students per se, because they can pick up, the ones that are advanced. I'm saying the advanced teachers, advanced in their consciousness. They can pick up the energy of their students, whether there's one student or 10 billion of them. Okay, the higher you raise your consciousness, the higher you elevate your consciousness, you'll be able to pick up that type of energy. Like I said, either if it's from one human being or 10 billion. So a good teacher knows how to assess a situation and know what her students need. Okay, they know what they need, so they go to that. They do everything they can to provide. Okay, and help. Okay, they do not ever, a teacher does not ever condemn anyone, whether it's on their sexuality, their gender, their race, their class, whether they're rich or poor. Okay, a great teacher does not consider that at all, ever. Okay, a great teacher does everything in their power to reach all. But a great teacher has to know that, right, we're all oscillating at a different consciousness, oscillation, sound, tones. And a good teacher knows that. And a good teacher knows how to listen for those tones and sounds. Okay, whether it's in how they express themselves, whether they're in visionary, auditory, feeler, sense and receiving, and all the other factors that go into that. Okay, but as a student, you have to know that is cultivating into you. So that's why you need to pay attention in class or self-educate yourself like I did. I had to self-educate myself, and that was the best way for me. I love it, and I continue to do that from now, and I'm going to continue to do it for millions and billions of years. How about that? But a good teacher knows and can sense and receive the energy of his students to know how to best teach them without condemning them and attempting to make fun of them and humiliate them and all that kind of stuff. No great teacher will ever humiliate his students or intentionally attempt to embarrass them. Okay. So storytelling is just like teaching, but it's an individual cultivation and contemplation. So the individual has to be honest and harshly honest about their intentions. Okay, if you are intentionally going out there to lie to people, like I said, you can't fool your consciousness. Your consciousness is going to throw you into some experiences to resolve that. If you're doing something that's intentionally against universal love. Okay, you'll always be in conflict with people. You're always going to be debating people. You're going to be always arguing your position. Is that discussion and conversation? No, it isn't. Okay, and if you're always arguing with people and stomping your feet like a child and you're an adult, the results speak for themselves. What is your experiences like? That tells you what you're thinking about. Okay, so again, ask yourself, why do we like fiction? Like I said, I don't necessarily indulge in fiction versus nonfiction. I attempt to neutralize everything. I love to be entertained. I love to laugh. I love comedy. I love how and I think comics can be very powerful if they are clear and effective about their intentions. They have to be a whole person. In other words, they have to be resolving their issues. Okay, and so a lot of them use comedy as an opportunity to kind of recover and entertain and laugh, and so that they don't take themselves so damn seriously. Otherwise, they're gonna take a gun out and boom, they're gone. A lot of comics that I have listened to and seen and heard and felt over the years suffer with a lot of depression. I think it's something that usually comes up, and that has to do with what you're cultivating in your thoughts, what you're contemplating in your thoughts, and how you may have trapped yourself in your fantasies, possibly, or just ruminating. Ruminating, I said in one of my videos, is life-threatening in my opinion, because all you're doing is spinning grief. You're spinning certain thoughts that bring you grief. If you're 5 feet tall, you might have a short man syndrome, and that's bothering you because you're not attracting the kind of women that you hope to attract, because most women don't like short men. You remember that song? Short people have no reason to live. I mean, that was comical to me. I wouldn't take that personally, but I'm not a short person. Okay, I'm a tall woman. So I cannot relate to that. And so that may have been offensive to some people. And it got trapped into their subconscious to where they're always going to have to be overcompensating, wearing adjustments in their shoes so they appear taller than they are. Okay. Overcompensating, being extreme, and taking yourself so seriously and personally. And so storytelling from the comic point of view, I love that more than anything, actually, because it allows me, because I've developed myself. I don't take myself so seriously. And what I mean by that, I love myself, but I'm not going to go running around feeling as though I'm supreme. Okay, eventually my personality will die and cease to exist. Okay, and then what? Right? Another personality will follow suit. Okay, that's the reality that no one wants to accept. Pay attention to nature. Nature tells you about what I guess they call it rebirth. We call it reincarnation. I'm going to explain those at some point because I'm reading on that now. But nature presents that to us when we have changing of seasons. You see a tree that looks like it's dead and then come back a few months and it's alive. We do that too. But there's some different factors to that. So I'll get to that in a moment. Or not in a moment, but on another video. This video is going long, and I knew it would, because this is a touchy subject, and we have to be clear and effective. But we also have to be honest. And like I said, every one of you need to ask, why are you writing fiction books? You're attempting to reach a certain type of audience. You're attempting to relay a certain type of content, but also be realistic to say that some of your recollections may be off. Okay, and there's no way for anybody to know what I've experienced unless you are inside of me. But if we had been elevating properly our consciousness, like I said, we would be Star Waring, we'll be, Star Trekking. We as a collective are below the surface, not below the surface, but below the threshold of where we ought to be. We ought to have been so much more advanced than we are in our consciousness. We're extremely advanced to a catastrophe level in technology, and and we don't know how we are, holding a bomb, so to speak, with our technology. Eventually, our technology is going to turn on us. That's a theory and opinion. Eventually, because like I said, our technology is neutral per se, but it depends on the intentions of the hidden hands behind it. Okay, you cannot be under the illusion to believe that if you are nefariously affecting other people, that's not going to come back to you. Boomerang. So, storytelling is a multifaceted way of attempting to reach people, attempting to touch people, and do it in as many expressions as we can. Because I'm a storyteller. Okay, like I said I was a visionary before, but I need, you have to know, so you have to understand who you are attempting to reach, and you need to meet people where they are. Coming in and saying I'm a visionary, people, that conjures up something different in a lot of people, and I can tell. That's why I stay away from it, even though I still am. I'd rather say I'm a storyteller. So that for some reason, fiction calms people down more so than the truth. So that's why you have to meet people where they are. If you are fiction, because, it reminds me of how a lot of books were out back in the day. You remember these romance novels? I'm not into romance novels. I'm sorry. I'm not into romance novels any more than I am into those boring ass Lifetime movies. But I'll sit and watch a boring ass Lifetime movie if it helps me to increase intimacy, and that's when you can increase intimacy with someone. If you just sit your ass down and watch one of those boring ass Lifetime movies with them. It's a chance to, lay your head on their shoulders and fall asleep. Like I said, and this also increases intimacy. So, I'm going to say more about storytelling, but I'm going to start here to say that storytelling, in my opinion, is the way to meet people where they are. Attempt to reach as many people as you can, to embellish them, allow them to be thinking, hopefully. But if they're sitting there, being tit for tat, okay, that doesn't sound true to me, just being illogical and not enjoying the moment. It's entertaining. We love to be entertained. Okay, and comics have a fascinating way of delivering that. I can be laughing, and some people with certain personalities too, and their humor. I could be laughing months on end when I remember a certain comment that comes out of people's mouths, or a certain response, that's comedic, that's comedy. That's why I used to love watching certain programs in TV that had a humor to it, humor in their presentations. There's several shows like Carol Burnett was fantastic with that, and also I love, one of my favorites was Alfred Hitchcock, and how everything he did was fiction. Remember, he's one of my favorites, but how did he deliver his material and his content in his movies? I can watch his movies over and over and over and over again. Same thing with Twilight Zone. Okay, so storytelling in fiction has a function of elevation and expanding, and that can expand your universe literally and give you possibilities. But if you're sitting there being very offended by everything that comes out of some of these comedians' mouth, yeah, sometimes it's inappropriate. Get over it, right? Why am I going to be all upset about what one person is saying? Especially if I know it's not true. For me, it's not my reality. What am I getting upset about? But I do protect against intentional consciousness terrorism that's projected towards women. And I've said that where there's an intentional means of harming and destroying, raping. And because a lot of those incels and those that indulge in their fantasies and a lot of other underdeveloped males is they have these fantasies of harming, raping, and torturing women, girls, and babies and toddlers. Let's be realistic about that. That's their fantasy. And because a lot of us are not in their world, because there's 10 billion people on this planet, nobody can monitor everybody. They can create this and cultivate these fantasies and do everything in their power to try to relive it, because it brings them such sexual, they think it's sexual satisfaction, but in actuality it's sexual frustration. Okay, yeah, I can guarantee if you go in some of these houses, and I'm sure there's millions of them, of these predator, dangerous personalities that are in their fantasies. Because like I said, you can have fantasies. We all have fantasies and imagination, but you need to know how to get out of that and know what's real and what's not. And that's where people get trapped. As I said, they're underdeveloped. Something happened in their adolescence where they're not developing properly, not thinking properly. They don't understand the reality versus fantasy. They're delusional. Okay, all of their sensing and receiving and every other aspect of thinking and whatnot is into video games, into that video game fantasy. A lot of great content can come out of that. But if you're in that type of warped consciousness, yeah, you're dangerous. That's a dangerous factor. And that's what these incels, if you listen to and pay attention to them, they're saying all of that. They have self-hatred, first of all, because they are underdeveloped. Okay. Some of them have physical, I don't know, they see it as physical disadvantages. Like I said, whether they're short, they got small penises, I don't know what the issue is, or they assume they do, which means nothing. Size in that reality doesn't matter, but there's a preference. Okay, and a lot of people need to understand that. Some like short men, some like tall men. But if you have self-hatred and you're not accepting of that, okay, you're going to be inflicting harm on yourself and others. And that's in your condescending conversations, arguing with people, battling people, always in conflict, always, arguing, especially with people that provide your service. And this, it's just a continual cycle. Okay, so I'm going to talk more about this, but I say that storytelling has a value on this planet because we are where we are in our consciousness. A lot of us have to be reached somehow, and we're failing. We failed in many aspects of reaching the collective. So we have to focus on individuals and like-mindedness. We're going to lose a lot of people in their consciousness. They could be lost in their abyss of their consciousness, ruminating, depressed, and they're going to be taking actions, and the action is usually blowing their heads off because it's going to be overwhelming and too much. And then on top of that, you have responsibilities. You got to pay your bills. You got to feed yourself, provide for yourself. Okay? So I hope all this makes sense. If not, swipe. But yes, storytelling has a value on a certain level of consciousness, a certain levels of a person's consciousness. Fiction is a way to capture something, to help you elevate out of your mundane, as you may perceive it, as a mundane life. But you have to get to a point of accepting your realities, and if you don't like it, you got to change it. I love my realities, honey. I'm in the hood, and and the children are out and about, going to school, parents are walking their children, you hear animals out there. I mean, this is a moving life. It's a constant movement of life. And this is a reality. And some people just don't want to accept their realities. And that's where you're going to run into issues every time. You have to. Because if you can accept your realities, you're more likely to change. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and stop right there. I appreciate anybody staying along, listening to me, and like I said, silently supporting me. I know you're out there, and like I said, I appreciate you, and I appreciate your support, and I want to send peace and love to you. And I'm going to go ahead and sign off now, but trust me, I'll be back.